Washington, D.C. My colleague, good morning. This morning we have visitors from World Bank. The delegation is led by Alan. They are here to interface with us on the activities of SRF, how the activities has been able to strengthen statistical activities in Niger State. At the same time, based on my discussion with Alan yesterday, they also want to discuss with the Chairman Board of Directors and Mr. Thompson from Niger State Polytechnic, Dr. Issa Audu also from Federal University of Technology will be visiting us. After that, or before that, we're going to see how we put the equipment given to us, how we put it into use, how it has strengthened us. After that, we also pay a courtesy call on the Honorable Commissioner of Planning Commission. If it's around, I'll just text him. We also pay a courtesy call on the Permanent Secretary, Niger State Ministry of Education. We also pay a courtesy call on the Permanent Secretary, Niger State Planning Commission. I believe those are most of our users with the statistics. And any other stakeholders that you deem fit, we also want to discuss with. To be that as it may, I just want to welcome you once more again and to tell you that sincerely speaking, the equipment or the material given to us have greatly assisted us. Before I go further, even the table here that the SPAC is using is part of the equipment that was given to us by SRF. This table. And you go to see the other ones that staff are put into use. We also try to give some of this equipment to some MDAs in the state so that will go a long way to assist us. If you are also interested, we will give you the detail of the equipment we've given to MDAs. SRF has also assisted us in publishing most of our statistical publication. This is what we'll be able to produce using SRF sources in Niger State. You have the public, and if they're also interested, we'll give them this hard copy each. We'll give a set each to you. On our own, on the part of the state government has given us an approval, and we paid for a website to be designed for the bureau. All these publications before you are already pasted in National Bureau of Statistics website. They are also pasted in Niger State government website. But we also want to have our own website. As I've earlier told you, paid. The designing is in the process. I think either by next week or in 2 weeks' time, the web will be on and you'll get to see it. And as I've also told you, the board of directors were constituted, and the board of directors are met 3 times. The chairman is here. So constituted the State Consultative Committee on Statistics. State Consultative Committee on Statistics have also been constituted at the state level. We have a 27-man committee to be chaired by Statistician General. Other Director of Planning, Research and Statistics of other MDAs are also members.
Let me see that.
Tiamu. Thank you. Well,
Thank you, Statistician General, for receiving me. And maybe before I go to that, I can introduce my two colleagues here. This is Andrew Flatt and Brian Ngo, and they are part of a mission called SRF Evaluation Mission. This mission is supposed to evaluate the SRF approach worldwide for the pilot phase. And Nigeria being one of the 8 pilot countries of the pilot phase, and since Nigeria is pretty advanced in the implementation of the SRF project, the team decided that it would be useful for their assessment to visit Nigeria at federal and at state level, choosing Niger State as an example, to assess what SRF achieved in Nigeria and what can be learned from this experience for an expanded phase of the SRF approach to be decided by the SRF Council later this month. So without further introduction, I would like to give the floor to Andrew and Brian for them to maybe brief us a bit more about what all this process is about.
Good morning to everybody. Andrew and I, as Alan said, are part of the two-man mission to evaluate the SRF. For those who are familiar with SRF, this is a new approach to provide support for statistics in developing countries. And there are 8 countries that are covered in the pilot phase, which is the phase that will be ending at the end of this year. In Africa, we have Nigeria and Rwanda, which is already implementing. We have 4 more countries where the process is a bit early in the sense of they just finished the declaration but have not begun implementation. These are Ghana, DRC, Ethiopia, Senegal, and then we have 2 countries in Asia, Afghanistan and Laos. So for this moment we have 3 countries where the project has already begun implementation. We have Nigeria, which I think is the most advanced. We have Rwanda, which we will be visiting next week. And then there's Afghanistan, which we will not be able to go because I think it's just we don't have the time for that. And just as an introduction, I think I support for a survey. You provide support for census. You provide support for IT. The SRF takes a broader approach. When you look at statistics as a strategy led by the country, and the donors get around it to support it. So basically you talk of a sector-wide. It's no longer statistic as a component of whether you talk of IT or money for a survey or cars or whatever. It's really looking at the overall approach. And in Nigeria you have the NSDS, the National Strategy for Development Statistics, which began in 2010, will finish next year, which provide the basis for that. And of course NBS is the main coordinator behind this. In Abuja, and I think hopefully will be released. Whether the new approach of the SRF, it had to begin with a country strategy, and that's involved all the concerned parties. It's not only, and then we start. And then we don't know what impact it has. So this is a new approach, and I think this is something which, based on our evaluation, that I guess depends on how we see the situation. So this is our very first country visit. I think we are very impressed with what we see so far. And I think we had heard good things in Abuja, but I think ever since yesterday when we came here, I'm even more impressed by what we're seeing in Rwanda next week. So there will be many information from them as well. So what I would like to hear from you, and again, I'm not sure how best to do specifically in Niger State, because second, whether or not you are seeing, we in the World Bank, sometimes we are the evaluators, but then we also have had a discussion with one and this depends on their own priorities. The third thing is the 3 perspective. The fourth perspective, which I think is maybe a bit more difficult for you to assess, is whether in terms of total resources, because of the SRF, are we getting more resources coming into statistical capacity building? So again, this is an option. So I think these are the basically the four areas: the impact of the sector-wide approach, how do donors work with you, or what is your perception for those of you who have been in contact with the donors? Are they working together better? Third is whether or not between the users of data and the producer of data you have a more interactive approach, and whether it's becoming, I think, more active and improved. And fourthly, whether or not you see more resources going to statistics. I'm an economist by training, and I've been using data all my lifetime. And I know policy, and you should be able to measure 3 or 5 years later whether or not certain indicators are improving. If you haven't got the data, we can talk about it. I think this is, as from the perspective of somebody using statistics for my work, this is where I came from. I used to work for the World Bank. I spent 25 years in the bank. I retired 4 years ago, so I'm now doing this not as a bank, but as someone
in the field of statistics. Starting out, in fact, in Africa, over in Ethiopia with the Economic Commission for Africa, and then subsequently at headquarters in New York. But I spent the bulk of my career helping to develop statistical capacity in countries of Asia Pacific. So I must say I probably know Asia a little better than Africa, but I'm trying to learn fast. As Brian mentioned, because we're adopting a number of methodologies in order to try and form a view and opinion of how the SRF is doing. And one of those, and a very important one, I think, is the questionnaire which we're going to be administering. And some of you, I think, will certainly be asked to respond to it. We try to make it as user-friendly as possible. So if you do receive one of these questionnaires, there'll be instructions as to where to send it and how to send it back, but I would urge you to fill it in as completely and as candidly as possible, because your responses will be kept confidential.
So let's talk that today we have a first introduction questionnaire. You can just be more specific in terms of what you think.
You are talking one of the board members. Actually, I would like to start irrespective of what is going on now, that don't know will go and meet each state, or they will come with their own package, and possibly the resources may not be much. But if the donors could contribute together and put it into a coffer with the aim of supporting statistics, that would be better for good. Just like I was discussing with you, before the establishment of the Niger State Bureau of Statistics, we don't have a budget of our own. Documents were around, but we couldn't publish it this way because of lack of resources. In addition, since the establishment of the Bureau, more people have been coming now to ask for the data we have. Researchers have been coming in, students from respective institutions are also coming in asking for information. This was either they were not aware that we exist. Statistics under this program have greatly assisted us. He was asked to go to Abuja yesterday for another summit. So we will not be able to see you, because right now he's still in Abuja. Center. To also pay for our subscription fees that we are not able to pay. One of the, because of his age and other commitment, maybe if you...
Thank you, sir.
The last minute, the chairman has not gone through it, but the two previous ones are okay, they are in the file.
It's important in the case of that.
It has to be posted to MDS, and each of these ministries, key line ministries.
I think essentially what we're trying to look is, we have a component of public service management. And one of the starting points is usually to establish factually what is the size of the public service in terms of the staff strength. And so what we set out to do is to actually generate the nominal roles from MDS and analyze them, break it up into gender, age, and all of that. That presents a picture of the civil service in terms of its staff strength. In the long run, we also tend to use that for what we call workforce plan, essentially helping the state to project future workforce plan and break it up to the time.
When the MBS started with the metadata, where they trained some researchers on how they can sell their data on the web. Then back to the state. Since their commissioning of the Bureau of Statistics, we have seen a series of changes. I think sometime last time we discovered that some of the information we require are not on the statistical template.
Okay.
They are not on the capture on the template.
And the new template was adopted at the last NCCS meeting in Calabar in December last year. And it has been deployed to the state since then. So I presume that the next SSYB for Niger State will follow this new template. So you may want to coordinate with the Statistician General to see if what was lacking in the previous template is now included in the revised template. And if it is not, I strongly suggest that you share your ideas with him so that he can convey the message to NBS for the next generation of the template.
Thank you.
And discuss what others have not been doing, so that at federal level, national level, those recommendations are also accepted and accommodated. That is what has been happening.
And since then, I think there have been a tremendous improvement in the publication of the data, which are more accessible to most of our clients.
Users and using the statistics, what problem they have, what is behind the number. So then you can report, because your role is to report what is happening to people.
The last time we had mentioned, we discovered that when you go on the field to conduct a survey, see the way they will respond to you as a student will be different from the way they will respond to me as a, they look at me more mature, mounted, from state bureau, they discover that they are more factual to you than me as a student. You see the mentality. They say, it's a small boy, okay, after this, you ran up on the box. See what they say, matured myself there.
My management staff.
Oh, okay. So it's part of the. But you know, community. I hope that.
First of all, let me start by saying good morning or afternoon. We've had an interesting session with you, but the area of the journalists and the statistics is where we're concentrating on. You've actually said a lot about it, but first of all, before we get there, why did you see the need to visit us here, the Niger State Bureau of Statistics? Let's start from
Yes. So as you know, we have this Statistics for Results Facility project, which is ongoing, and it has one component at federal level and one component at state level, and it includes 6 pilot states, one per geopolitical zone. And Niger State happens to be one of the states in the pilot phase. And because of the progress made throughout the lifespan of the project, we thought that it would be a good case to show to the evaluation team to see how can a project really help a state statistical system to strengthen itself and to improve in the production of statistics, in the dialogue with users, and in the coordination of the system as a whole.
Okay.
So this is the main reason why we decided to visit Niger State.
Okay, so having met with us here, you've understudied all that there are here or that there is obtainable here. What's your take on the state of Niger State Bureau of Statistics?
Well, as I mentioned during the meeting, I really think that the state is even better than what I thought from Abuja. The legal and institutional framework is all set now, but beyond that, coordination has improved already a lot the statistical production is really up to date now, and I think the future is brighter for Niger State as far as its statistical system is concerned.
So you made mention about journalists giving false or inaccurate data. Has this ever happened anywhere in Niger State before?
I'm not sure about Niger State, but you know, this kind of thing can happen in the entire world. Yeah. So the only question I wanted to advise on is to make sure that when you use data, you really understand the data that you use, and if you don't, you can communicate with the producers of statistics to make sure that you have the same understanding of the data, just to avoid miscommunication that can be harmful for the population.
So what advice will you give to the people in custody of data to make it available for people? Because most times what problem we encounter is inavailability of this or not being able to access some of those data. What advice will you give to those custodians?
Yeah, I think everything rely on dialogue. So if you don't have the data you need, you better try to dialogue with the data producers to see if those data can be made available to you, and if not, what kind of advice can be given to you to be able to do your analysis without the availability of this data. You may have some proxies or some other data that can be of help, but for this you need to really have a user-producer dialogue.
Okay. Thank you very
to express your need.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Besides the data itself, you need to understand what is behind the data. Oftentimes the interpretation of the data is not done right. So this is the number that come out that's supposed to represent something and it's misunderstood to be something else. And oftentimes this, to me, it's not done willfully. It's more a matter of not understanding the concept right. So I think for journalists, clearly you're doing your job by trying to get the best out from the data source and make sure that the population understand what it means. And where you have doubt as to am I getting it right, I think it's useful to go back and check. See, I got this information from you. You told me that things are improving. I double check on the numbers. It is not clear to me that things are improving. Can you tell me? So before rushing out because sometimes I can see as a journalist, if you sometimes being critical can make it look interesting to the reader. But do not get yourself caught in the sense of making it sensational. I think so oftentimes that has been harmful in many countries. Yeah. And then if you do it one time, the next time when you go for more data, they say, well, not to you anymore because you have not done a good job based on our last interview. So I think there is a bit of a goodwill coming from both sides. The data producer have to inform the press, and the press has to take it and make it so that the population understand what is going on. So I think there is that part, and I think it's the quality of the data, the availability of it, making sure that the number come out on a timely basis, but you also have the role of a good interpretation of what the number means.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir.
Yeah, responsibility for the producers of data to build some statistical literacy among users. So down the line, they should really take note of the shortcomings and build this statistical literacy over time.
Thank you very much.
As you heard from what I've said during the meeting, we really appreciate the role World Bank have played in the life of Niger State Bureau of Statistics. Niger State government is grateful to them, and we rely on that, and that's why we are where we are now. You can hear from them the scorecard. We are doing, and we are not relenting. By God's grace, we improve on what we have achieved.
All right, away from that, it's quite commendable that at least there's a good thing happening here, having set up the Niger State Bureau of Statistics. But like you have rightly heard, that the relationship between this, should I call it department, and the media, it's let me describe it as not being cordial, sort of, in terms of statistics.
Well,
what do you intend to do to improve?
I wouldn't say it's not cordial. Last year in 2011, we had a user-producer seminar in NASFA Hotel. We invited all the media, they were there. And it has been part of us that quarterly or annually, once we have our publication, we invite all the medias, we share with them, we ask them to look at what we have produced. If there's any other things they need, they tell us so that we produce more. So we'll be interfacing with the media. We did it last year, and God's willing, we'll also do it towards the end of this year. We'll be inviting all of you to a workshop. We'll present what we have to you for you to look at it. Look at it critically. If there's anything you don't understand, you ask so that we explain in order to avoid misrepresentation at the media.
Okay, sir, lastly, the coming of the delegates to Niger State, what are your expectations afterwards?
We expect from them that since they see what we put into use, what we've been given, we expect more from them so that they do more for us to excel. I bet you, in the whole of northern Nigeria, other states are coming to benchmark with us in Niger State in terms of statistics. Last week I had a call from Gombe. Gombe are also coming. Kwara State was here, Sokoto was also here. They are trying to benchmark with us. So I'm not just trying to blow our trumpet. We are doing greatly fine, and we hope we'll continue to do that. And with that, I'm also calling on World Bank to continue to assist us so that we'll be able to excel.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Sir. You're the chairman of the board.
Board of Directors. Board of Directors. Well, in spite of insufficient resources, Niger State Bureau of Statistics is progressing. I don't want to assess myself. These people have a World Bank saying we are now a model. So that summarizes everything. But resources is a challenge.
Just resources?
Just resources. And
what
then
about capacity building?
We don't have any limit for capacity building.
How often?
We will continue to train. And the more we train, the more capacity we have. And the more equipment we have, the more capacity we have.
So in other words, you're telling us the more you have the equipment on ground, the more you have the resources on ground, the more training and the better the statistics.
Yes. That's it.
This way. Thank you, sir. We go back to one from here. Assess us or of the bureau. You being one hearing in terms of data you request now. I want to see him, also to see the commissioner. Same time as the commissioner, Niger State Planning Commission.
Sure, he was informed you that the chief servant takes statistics very important and very key, because he believes for us to have a good plan, we must have the necessary data that will back up that plan. And to strengthen that process, he, as a part of public finance management, brought out and made sure that the bill for the establishment of Niger State Statistical Bureau was passed and put in practice since 2010. Then the respective budget head, so that they will have the will and the financial resources to carry out the expenditure and all necessary activities. The government has also to actually support Niger State government with some equipment, which we have, I'm sure as the SD would have shown you, put to use. We have distributed all this equipment to all the local governments in Niger State and given
the major ministries, health, education, agriculture, some of these equipment that will facilitate data generation and utilization. And I just said that one of the key people that will generate the necessary data for development of key performance indicators for all these plans that we are actually doing. But just to see our data generation gaps where they give useful suggestions. Also subjugated itself to peer review mechanism among the leading 3 economies in Nigeria. And with the collaboration and support we are receiving from you and other partners and our will to ensure that we reach that stage, we believe is an achievable process with dedicated policies and programs. We believe we're going to provide you this so that you can also look and keep track, so that where we are going and adrift, you can also advise. And as a planning commission, this is one of the magazines that we have normally used to also ensure that we have what you have seen, and then see how we can put heads together to push the state forward.
Thank you very much. One of the 8 pilot countries. And Nigeria has this peculiarity that the project is implemented at both national level and state level. And Niger State happens to be one of the 6 pilot states of the project. Of how SRF as a stakeholder, primarily.
And next week we're going to be in Rwanda. As you know, we have 8 countries that are covered under the pilot. We meet quite a bit before we came. And we keep on going from being impressed to being more impressed. So I look at your vision. So if I understand correctly, you want to be the top 3 states in Nigeria by the year 2020, and media and so on and so forth. And I think we are seeing a lot of good interaction between, from this morning